By the way, she's not the only dipshit involved in this. Our dear friend Glenn Beck, who, yes, I am jealous of his studio. I am. Now granted, I would not have my name up on the top of this like that big. That's a little Saddam Hussein for me. That's like having a billboard in your office. It's a little embarrassing. I would have scenes from my favorite movies just in the background and have people guess what it was every day, and or go, what's that still from? Is that Miller's Crossing? Is that Vibes? Is that Fletch? What is that? It's such a great little, and like, or it would like a block, one of those block games that forms the picture over time, right? And then eventually it would solve the puzzle. So if you got bored staring at my beautiful face, you could look at that instead. All right, so this is the same title situation. Exposed. Dun, dun, flan. New WHO health treaty could end U.S. sovereignty. Just when you thought somebody couldn't be fucking dumber than Michelle Bachmann, a long rides American Psycho action figure version of Glenn Beck. Watch this.
I want to bring in Daniel Horowitz because, Daniel, you have...
By the way, this guy is on the blaze. It's not like he found some dude. This is again, having a guest from your own network on the network, which I think it's bad form when news organizations do it, and not just because I feel like every time, Nicole Wallace brings on another host from MSNBC, it's that they're sitting in my seat. But I think it's obvious cheap filler. It's making somebody else work twice too in your company. Yeah, he's in a suit because I think he has court. He's being sued by Sonic.
You've done a lot of work on this, and you started this years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it wasn't a thing.
And
still isn't.
You really have boiled this.
By the way, I guess Glenn's his P's and his S's have been irritating people, so they got him a Glenn Beck pop filter that looks like he's talking into a giant marshmallow. This looks like marshmallow on marshmallow crime.
To what's happening next week. Daniel Horowitz, writer for The Blaze and Conservative Review. Daniel, tell me what's happening here.
Well, great to be back with you, and I'll say it's worse than having our national sovereignty abrogated.
Literally, think about that first. Listen to that statement. It's worse than having our national sovereignty abrogated. Yeah, it's like, it's worse than, I guess, just being invaded by Russia.
It's really our bodily sovereignty.
Dun, dun, dun. It's the WHO in suppository form. Whoop.
Typically, these international treaties would affect the sovereignty of our nation. This will affect our bodies because...
No, it won't.
The wheel starts...
Also, keep in mind, because we just went through this with Michelle Bachmann, keep in mind the stuff that I read to you in this, and I'll post the changes to the WHO thing so you guys can look at them if you want to, or have them, in your back pocket if somebody brings this bullshit up. Keep in mind all that stuff I read you about the shall and may and will help, and if you want help, you can ask, and if you don't ask for help, you got to tell us why you're not asking for help within 48 hours instead of having a fucking 2-week roll, and you can't just write us a letter and I don't know, that letter about Ebola, I sent it to you guys last week. It must be lost in the mail. I'll get those reports right to you. Why you can't do that if you're a member of the WHO or you want the benefits of being part of the WHO.
To churn in the minds of those behind this entire COVID regime, the Great Reset, over...
Oh, God. It's the Great Reset mixed with COVID. COVID is at Jade Helm. COVID is the Jade Helm of lizard people.
Last year, wow, the people are really acquiescing to this pretty easily, but they were a little bit perturbed that you did have Sweden, you had Florida, you had some areas doing their own thing.
Right, and you can still do that in the confines of this.
So their goal is to create a pandemic treaty that will synchronize
We already have one.
and consolidate the control under these global authorities.
No, just the reporting recommendations, not how you handle it. And if you're just going to ride it out and you don't think it's a threat, again, Sweden was not the originator of this at all. Their response to it was on the other side of it. They were not. Sweden at no point became the epicenter of spread. They could have, technically speaking, I suppose, at a certain point if the rest of the world had wiped it out in a year and they just refused to do anything about it. But they decided to go with national immunity, and it didn't necessarily work out for them. But it didn't start in Sweden. That was about Sweden's reaction to it, and they followed all the WHO's recommendations externally, which is the only part that they would, in theory, have obligation to, but then other countries could stop them from coming. I mean, I guess if you were Swedish and you wanted to fly to Iran and Iran didn't give a fuck, they weren't going to stop you if you could get the flight.
Where they could basically lock you down.
No.
They could force, therapeutics on you, say,
That's not true at all.
You're a public health threat. This is what you need to do. We're going to declare your region a public health emergency.
No, they cannot. Look. I don't know where these assholes learn to read, but it's not like it's not available. This is all about reporting. This is all about letting the world know if you have a massive contagion. And if you don't tell because you're hiding it like China did, we're going to tell everybody anyways because we've got enough evidence because of all our interaction with you already. Like, think about what I read to you guys already. None of it matches up with what this asshole is saying. This is embarrassing. And this is what passes for conservative thought. This is Alex Jones bullshit. This is like pedestrian, not even crazy entertaining Alex Jones garbage.
And we can do anything we want. Now...
No, they can't. They can't do anything they want. Like, that's just... Think about how hyperbolic and crazy that is. And think about the kind of people who are like, they're going to take our freedoms and our guns, they're going to sterilize us. And like, think about how many of those assholes are out roaming around listening to these two dickheads yammer about this.
We're working...
Hey, is Stu out sick? The other guy's filling in.
that for a while, and I was always wondering where the Biden administration was, because they support it. They were awfully quiet. Well, it turns out that they quietly submitted amendments to this 2005 International Health Regulation.
Yes. That would curtail China's influence on the WHO, limit Tedros' ability to single-handedly run interference for a country like that, and put in a bunch of, like, if you got a disease and it's going to spread around the world, you have to let us know quickly, asshole. Stuff. Again, adult shit. This is, this is fucking irritating.
In January.
Why would they need a press conference? This is adult You would hope they would be doing
Released on the White House.gov.
Yes, on our behalf, to benefit Americans, so that we would not be on the receiving end of another swine flu epidemic that we have to find out 3 weeks after it's spread all over the fucking place when they've known that long.
Yep, they sent them, and you could see the strike through.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes, right. You can see. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You didn't read it. Fucking hell.
Basically, the upshot of.
Basically it says, fuck you, basically. You got that giant screen, put it up on the screen. That's what I would do with a studio this size. Pop this. While he's talking about it, pop that shit up on there. Right? What's stopping him? What do you think people don't know his fucking name? What is stopping him? If you've got that giant wall behind it, when they say in Section 5, whatever, put it up there. Well, you can't. You know why they won't do that? You know why they can't do that? Is because it will prove that they are talking out of their ass just idiotically, or they're lying on purpose. It's a confluence of misinfo and disinfo, and the only difference is, do you think they're doing it on purpose, or they're just that fucking dumb? Now, because they have that giant screen and they have the ability to do it, yes, and the WHO, and no, China is mad at the WHO right now. WHO is supposedly kind of a neutral body. They don't take politics because if they're kicked out of a country, they won't be able to tell if a disease breaks out in that country and that hurts the rest of the world. So that's why they have to play nice. That's why nobody's ever going to like their politics. It's too, central and tiptoe, and you have to kiss China's ass to be there. Same thing with Russia. You have to kiss the ring. The UAE is the same problem. Their issue though is that they don't care. They don't feel shamed by disease in the Middle East culturally. It just doesn't seem to be a thing. So they don't push back against this stuff. They come in here and go they treat the WHO like janitors. Yeah, come in and clean up under the sink. It's no big deal. But other countries think it's a reflection of the health and fitness of their people, and they keep it out. China has the worst. Russia's pretty bad. Turkey's a little bit about it. But and there's some African countries that just don't have the capacity. That's where the whole thing in the WHO of if you need help, we'll give it to you. That part of it, they don't have the capacity to do this. But there is nothing stopping Glenn Beck from putting that on any of those screens in his office. Why the fuck is it not on one of those screens? I count. He's got a splitter up top, up to his left. If you look up to his left, am I pointing the right way? Yeah, that's this way. Yeah, up to his left, in that corner. That's all the channels. Not what's on. That's not a feed that's going out. That's all the angles possible. Now, why they would ever choose this weird angle where you can see his waste paper basket and his Sonic cup and his fat ass and his stupid jacket and all that stuff, I don't know. It's the dumbest, weirdest shot they have, and they've never reframed it. It's creepy. I don't get it. But all the shots are up there, so all those are... He doesn't need to see that. That's for the dude running the show. That guy's in a booth. Glenn's not he's not throwing the show while he's there. There's news programs up to his on his right. I guess it looks repetitive though, but it looks like it's probably the MSNBC, CNN, NBC, and probably the Blaze, and they just run it or some shit or whatever. And then the rest of this is there's a fucking basketball game on or some shit in the center. There's a giant screen to his right, which is a document screen. And it looks like he's got something highlighted there. Why isn't that up on the big screen where people can see it? Why can't you feed it? Maybe they will. Let's see. Let's see if he posts up, like I did, easily, the document in question and the contents therein. Yes, 903 in the chat. Pass the show around. Share the show. Let everybody know the show's going on. I might be getting, algorithm dented as I climb up. But we are getting close to 35K. Does anybody know the current number? I'm pretty sure we're close. We're within we're definitely within a couple hundred. Maybe even less at this point. Yeah. Oh, God, this is aggravating. I like the big triangle desk, though. They have these at a lot of radio stations I go to. This studio is basically standard fare or whatever. I don't know why he has this he's got a teleprompter over on the other side that is... on the studio wall for stand-ups. There's a live report from Glenn Beck Studios with his Glenn Beck thing in the background. Or maybe they put him on a stool in front of that fucking thing, and that's when he does call-ins to places. That makes sense. So he can see the feed in the screen. That's the way I do it.
Of the state, the WHO Secretary General shall, instead of may, do this.
Yes, shall, as in inform. Again, isn't it important information what they shall versus may do, what the activity you're talking about? May kill someone versus shall kill someone is very different than may call someone and warn them that someone is coming over to kill them versus shall call someone and tell them that someone is coming over to kill them. Right? Kind of matters. Matters what the activity is.
Took out all the consultation
34,800. We're 200 away from 35K. Very excited.
Requirements with the state, but we didn't even know about this until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, because they were drafting it, and they got the meeting next week, and they're preparing their drafts for what changes they want to meet, and they're going to meet everybody else on the emergency council. And I guess what? Guess fucking what? Every criticism that China is going to have with their WHO, committee member, every single objection is going to be identical to Daniel Horowitz and Glenn Beck and Michelle Bachmann and Danny Balls. They're going to have the same fucking complaints because they know it's actually aimed at them. They're not using it for politics. They mean it.
And they're going to submit it at this conference. And like you said, the reason they're doing this is because Biden knows he doesn't have 67 votes for a treaty.
And again, we already are a part of the World Health Organization. You don't have to have a treaty about this shit. This doesn't cover any of that. And we can remove ourselves from the WHO instantly, and it would have no pull. So if they overreached, we would be out. That's one of the reasons why China has used their the face aspect of things as such a hammer.
So like everything else they do, rather than a treaty, a law, really everything they did throughout COVID, you just do it executively or make an end run around it. So they're going to have a de facto treaty without.
Oh, God.
Calling it that. And that's the way they plan on getting this passed. And look, Biden claims to already have the support of Canada and most of Europe.
Yes, all the other free countries of the world. You know he doesn't have the support of? China. That should give you some indication. Oh, God damn, these guys are dumb.
So this is, this puts
us basically, it allows us to be probed by aliens while playing the banjo.
the WHO in charge of really any kind of pandemic, any kind of...
No, it does not. It's the telecommunications wing of the world pandemic response.
Traumatic event anywhere.
Yes, any traumatic event, any pearl clutching that goes on.
In the world. They're calling the shots, not our local or our national people.
Horse shit.
But the WHO, correct?
No, not correct. And watch, Daniel Horowitz will go, absolutely.
Well, in plain English, China.
Oh, wow, even worse. In plain English, yes, China will determine America's response to healthcare issues. Breathe, Hal. Breathe. Just breathe. Breathe. You know they don't bother to read any news about China at all. You know that about them. But you can't let it get to you.
And I think you can't discuss this WHO effort in a vacuum without noticing last week the Biden administration held this, what he called a global COVID summit.
Right.
And the summation of the...
Yeah, to look back on what was done, see what was done right, what was done wrong, what we could do better next time. You know, adult shit.
Everything that was said on that Zoom get-together was essentially there is a worse pandemic coming in the fall and winter. Now,
okay, remember the asshole who said a hemorrhagic flu this fall? That's not at all what was said. They know that in the fall and winter, that's cold and flu season. They also know in the United States alone, we lose somewhere between 50,000 people and 70,000 people, sometimes on average, because of the flu at its height, when the flu spikes in its fatality. So it would be nice to tamp that down, especially if it's a flu we have no immunity for and it's coming from overseas because of overseas travelers. We are international. So is every other modern country. So you'd want to tamp that shit down, lower that transmissibility, do something about it, especially if it's like, well, it's kind of like the flu, but it turned out to be more like COVID, actually, and wiped a bunch of fucking people out.
they would know that.
No, Kath, they are not functioning adults. This is true. This is literally talking people out of things that are in their own best interest just for panic dollars.
Kind of interesting.
And I will be shocked, I tell you, if Rusty Rockets doesn't do a video about this.
But
Or hasn't already, for all
I think we should take them seriously, that they might know something that you and I don't. And they seem to be indicating that, yeah, you know what, maybe COVID wasn't quite that bad, but this is going to be really bad.
No, you're always concerned that one of these bigger diseases, like monkeypox or measles or Ebola is always the one everybody goes to, can become somehow non-contact transmissible, meaning airborne or surface contaminated and spread like that. That's a nightmare scenario. That's a 28 days later situation where you're wiping out a huge chunk of the population. If you want that to happen, if that's your goal, if you're trying to depop the world, you would talk like Glenn and this dickhead.
Now think about how Wuhan gaslit the world.
Right, which is why all the changes in this. You're almost there, dummy. You're almost there, dum-dum. You're so close to figuring out you're an asshole and slamming yourself on your head on the desk and hanging up on Glenn and doing something for real with your life.
To respond in the way they did, and now you have a whole new level of Shanghai, and then now they're saying there's going to be an even worse pandemic that perhaps should engender a need for an even more severe lockdown like we're seeing in Shanghai.
No, they're not. Again, I just fucking showed you guys this. Listen to what he's saying, and oh god, it's so much easier when I've already shown you that these assholes. Where is it? Whoops, here we go. This one right here. WHO chief censored on China's internet after calling zero COVID unsustainable. It is not drafting a new response that is more like Shanghai at fucking all. That's the point. That's why China hates this. That's why Glenn Beck and this prick are both, and Michelle Bachmann and Danny Balls and all these fuckers are actually, whether they know it or not, getting their talking points from China. The reason why she's getting, Michelle Bachmann, of all people, posting a lunatic article because somebody sent her something to be afraid of, and she read it the way they told her to read it. A constituent, a person in my district named Michelle Bachmann wrote me a letter, and I was like, oh my God, she's talking right to me. And I read what she told me to read, and I read it how she told me to read it, and oddly enough, and I don't think she's an internet troll at all, her English was a little bad, but I mean, that's true of a lot of people in our friend circle up here in Minneapolis. And anyway, so I started doing these videos, and magically they got boosted to the fucking moon. I have not had any of the stuff. My stuff hasn't caught fire like this in a long time.
Saying that's coming.
What they're trying to accomplish.
Are they saying that's coming next winter?
No, winter after next. They're trying to schedule it now. The World Health Organization is now scheduling pandemics. Basically so they can all go to Coachella still.
This coming fall, winter, yes.
Fall and winter are traditionally the periods of greatest transmission of disease everywhere.
This treaty, the changes kick in November.
No, they do not.
They don't kick in right away.
They don't kick in until 2024. The review process goes on till the fall. Then they're officially signed off on. Then they operate they're on parole. Like all of these things, they're in a review period where they try out that system for 2 fucking years, and then it goes online 2 years from that date, from whenever this fall. God damn, this is.
You have to wait until next fall, right around election time when they kick in.
Look at him thinking like I just discovered something. I don't know. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, that's right. Captain Chalkboard strikes again. Huh? Like right about they go into effect. They're going to start a phone tree starting in November that's going to let us know if there's a giant swine flu outbreak in China making its way over here, and they're going to use that so that we have drop boxes for every election, so that 2,000 mules.
So Glenn, the way I understand it
is the same way an ape understands shit smears in the shape of the world's friendliest face. Just the way I understand it is without understanding. It's very Buddhist. I just release my cognitive ability and my capacity for rational thought, and I just release it to the ethers of lunacy.
That under the current rules,
The current rules.
party could rescind their support, a state actor could rescind the support for the regulations within 18 months. So
the review period for when it goes into place, and then after that, during that 18 months, they go, this sucks, we're not doing this. This isn't working, it's draconian, etc. All the things that they're allegedly fear-mongering about. And basically this is to drive China out of the WHO and isolate them. They're leaving on their own anyways. After the review period, which brings us to 2024. How many times is this asshole going to say basically without ever showing the document? Like I said, I think Glenn, he's got something highlighted on that screen. Glenn, you got something highlighted on that screen. Why not share that with the viewers? You got all these fucking cameras. You got staff out the ass. And you can't manage to show what I showed about China's treatment of the head of the WHO, about the actual document itself, and any number of, like this ABC News rebutting this stuff. None of that's on any of these screens?
the lame duck session of Congress,
Wow.
where maybe
Wow. Right after the Republicans. So they've got it planned so that this will go into place right after the Republicans win, so they won't have a shot. They're not going to do this right before the election. That's why we have to turn this into a talking point and make it sound like the Democrats are giving away our sovereignty, even though these are rules we would have wanted in place before. No.
maybe it will be after the election, but before the new Congress is sworn in.
Which, what difference does it fucking make? Honestly, there is no fucking way that Republicans are going to win 60 seats in the fucking Senate. Right? There's no way. Not going to happen. Even if they were to take it over again, which is doubtful at this point because they keep running all these lunatics. And I question even gains in the House. The only thing that keeps it as a wild card is that some of these the redistricting hasn't shaken out yet, so you can't get a good picture of it. But the Senate, no fucking way. So what difference would it make? They don't have enough people to override a veto by the president if they were gonna like, we're not gonna be party to the WHO anymore, and we signed this thing and whatever. Like, it's silly.
How bad on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, for fuck's sake. On my finger scale.
I mean, everything is
Anybody watch The Last Boy Scout? Just me? I'm the only person? All right. Whoops.
fire right now, it seems like. And, you know, you can only pay attention to so much.
The world is on fire and you can only pay attention to so much. No. Some of us have the mental capacity to be able to contemplate all of these things, including, and I know this is a shocker, Glenn, all of the relevant data that actually comes from the story itself instead of whatever fart you're sniffing from some lunatic on the web that will say, if we can scare the living shit out of as many people as possible, only a couple of them will go nuts and murder people, but the vast majority of them will buy a bunch of fucking pancake batter and drink, fattening milkshakes in their hollowed out bomb shelter, waiting for the end times and watching the blaze.
Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, holy cow, Constitution is on fire. We're all gonna die.
Yeah, that would be 10 in this situation. Dude's gonna say 8.
It's a mountain ahead of us.
Which is just like, there's a mountain ahead of us. What?
Pull up.
Pull up. We're flying straight into constitutional destruction, and all we had to do was just pull back on the yoke. Why didn't we think of that till now? The fuck?
And 1 being, Where is this?
1. It's less than 1.
You know, Glenn, I would say that where we're headed is a 15.
Oh, get fucked. Look, you guys know I have a pet peeve about 1,000% when people say that shit. I'm 1,000%. It's like 1,000%. No. Percent per 100 out of 100. What is it? Fucking use one of the numbers. Nobody gets to go to 11 just because Spinal Tap made the joke. Quit it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, she's a 25.
Never imagine. And again, I'm not saying it's the WHO provisions in a vacuum. It's what it represents and what they're trying to accomplish.
Again, what do you mean, yes? No. None of that is real. This is all horseshit. It's not a 15. It's not even close. These are standard adult, redrawings of rules based on how China dodged all the normal rules that you thought were just fine when everybody was playing nice before all this shit. None of them apply to the United States. 15.
A lot of people are under the false impression that it's over with, COVID's over with.
No, we don't believe it's over with. We think we're largely vaccinated and we have enough herd immunity where most of the people that might get it again, the variant that they will get if it's because of the spread of Omicron specifically, will be less damaging than, say, Delta. And because of that immunity, that will move it into being more like a cold for people who've previously been vaccinated or had the disease itself because you have antibodies against it. We don't think it's over. There's a bunch of... Ask North Korea. It's not fucking over. Ask China. Their vaccines do not work.
The lockdowns are over with. We're never going back to that.
Right.
If you understand the background behind this, which a lot of it we still don't have all the information, but we...
Really? You sound like a guy with all the information. Gee, I would have never gotten the impression that you're talking with half a tank.
Our suspicions, they ain't done with
our suspicions.
They're not. And I think, if you put yourself in their shoes...
Oh, God. If you put yourself in their shoes, you would wake up every day trying to keep an infectious disease from murdering half the population of the goddamn planet, and you would make mistakes sometimes, but most of the time you'd be doing good stuff, and your overreactions would be actually better than your underreactions ultimately, and you would score your life based on whether or not you were able to stop the spread of airborne fucking Ebola, instead of some jagoff who works for the Blaze and his asshole boss who shows his ass to the camera all the time.
They were pretty successful. I mean, they walked in without firing a shot. They did not have much opposition. You look even at a lot of the red states, and they fell for a lot of this to this day. That
fell for a lot of it. They participated in it willfully because they recognized, especially later in it, that it was the red state citizens that were getting killed.
They announced their...
Yeah, wait till 7G gets rolled out. Q will be behind it. Oh, yeah, I can't wait for 9G.
They're approving a third shot, and not just approving, but marketing, distributing.
Yeah, marketing, making it a choice, recommending it. Again, these fuckers react to a recommendation like they're having their head put in a stock and their pants pulled down.
A third shot to 5 to 11-year-olds. Name me the...
No, not a third shot to 5 to 11-year-olds. A primary shot. Just getting them vaccinated.
States that have stood up and said, we're not doing this. I think Florida recommends against it.
Well, yeah, because even amongst your quarter, not all of them, a surprising number of them these days, seem to be waking up from this zombie haze of fucking paranoid idiocy and going, well, I may believe a bunch of other lunatic shit, but I do know one thing. I can't get reelected if all of my constituents are fucking dead because they followed Glenn Beck and Daniel Horowitz's advice.
I don't think we have undone this. We have not immunized ourselves through state constitutional amendments and other efforts.
That's a weird choice of words, pal. As a matter of fact, we have immunized ourselves
from this happening ever again. So in the past...
Well, no, there is no way to legislate your way out of a contagious disease spreading at some point in the rest of human history.
The reason why I say it's a 15, in the past it's like, oh, they're going to tax us, they're going to regulate us, they're going to take away our national sovereignty. This, they quite literally view us as lab rats.
No, they quite literally fucking don't. Holy shit. Like, again, at a certain point, like, there's one thing where you can read this in bad faith and assume it means what it doesn't mean. But there's another thing entirely where you're like, he didn't even glance at it. He read what somebody else read about it, and they isolated a sentence, and he assumed the rest of the sentences around it were like that. Again, it's like they may versus shall thing about somebody coming over to murder you. Now, you may warn somebody that there's a contract out on them, or you shall. How does that work out for the person who has the contract out on them? If it's optional versus mandatory, I would like to know, wouldn't you?
In their new global
Yes, and I know lab rats, goddammit.
design.
Yes.
And I think there's no limit to what they plan on doing.
Yeah, there is. That's why it's written in paper, because it limits it. Fuck me.
It is so frightening because, they all love the chief advisor to Klaus Schwab.
We're jumping straight from the WHO, I guess, over to the World Economic Forum. Anything with world in it is bad news. Becca, thank you so much for the super chat. By the way, thank you guys for the support. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Twitch, you can use Amazon Prime and subscribe, and that'll boost the show stuff. I don't have my little thing up on this show. I'll put it in for tomorrow, for radio tomorrow. And I might do a special show Sunday morning, since I'm basically trapped here in San Diego and I only have one show that night. I think I probably will, since I'm, it's just us. Just the two of us. By the way, don't be afraid of anything these shitholes are talking about or doing, because it will have zero effect on your reality. That's the other thing I want to tell you about, is that all this clamoring from Danny Balls to Michelle Bachmann to these dickheads, there's going to be some people, like MTG will make a floor speech about this bullshit, and everybody will look at her cross-eyed because she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you even read this? Can you?
Yuval Noah Harari. And if anybody knows who he is a favorite futurist of everybody on the left. They love this guy.
Oh, I didn't realize. Harari?
And he has said...
How did I check my phone? Travis, feel free to join us in the 8 o'clock hour of the show on Monday. Oh, gosh. Oh, thank you, Leslie. Where am I? Okay. And Charlene just, let's see. Hold on. Charlene May is coming in. Hold on. Glad to. All right. And then Charlene May, where are you staying? Comedy condo. Right by, by the club. Sorry guys, almost finished with my shoe. Go ya after. There we go. All right. Together, this says, they asked on Wednesday, should this size figure there's no one or anything. Sorry, okay, da-da-da. Fear not. Hold on. I had my buddy Vargas Mason, who was going to feature for me this weekend, but it took the club till Thursday to tell me that it was okay. And he got booked on a headlining gig, so there we go. So it'll be just me and Charlene tonight and tomorrow. There we go. All right. Danny Ball's got his name from testicle tanning. Right.
Globalist elites are going to use crisis to bring about world government, but he's...
And again, I'm in danger of going into a sensible conversation about what governance means, because we have a federal government, yet we have states' rights in the United States, for example, a federal system, and that's what they recognize. And we have a constitution that cannot be overridden by, quote unquote, a world government. There is no singular, even with the existence of the UN and the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, these are all just appendant bodies to have meetings between people, so we're not warring over resources and just letting diseases roll across the fucking globe like these assholes. Like, literally, I think this is just a war on adulthood. That's what we're seeing.
It in a good way. He's like, look, it's going to be a crisis, and we can program people, and
Yeah, is that what he says? Yeah, you could put him up on one of those screens. I didn't realize he was one of my favorite people, but we can program people, and we're going to have a world crisis?
He is terrifying.
Okay. Well, I feel like I'm behind on my reading then.
Terrifying on the
Is he terrifying, though?
things that he believes that would be put into our bodies.
Oh, you mean like the RFID chips that you guys have allowed to be put in Americans' bodies by overturning Roe v. Wade? You didn't realize it, did you? This Harari guy was playing, Spock chess with you, and you fell for it, Glenn. You fell for it.
It's not.
I don't know. Hold on. Harari. Futurism. I don't know what the fuck. There are a few things that are unique in Harare that you won't find elsewhere. Harare is an actual city in Africa, in Zimbabwe. Harari Books, maybe that's it. Harari, maybe. Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Man as God, 21 lessons. He wrote Sapiens, okay. Let's see. Homo sapiens are wild. Let's see. This is an article about a garden. A swashbuckling account. This is the book. This is the title of this book. Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Swashbuckling account that begins with the origin of the species and ends with post-humans. So he's talking about, it's basically cyberpunk shit about how we're going to be modified over time and da-da-da-da. And by the way, of course we are. We are now. You wear a watch, don't you? You take medicine, don't you? Stupid. Anything that works, we're going to adopt. And I'll be an early adopter. Again, I can't wait to have my iPhone be a fucking iPhone. Just melon ball the fucker out and replace it with a Thor eyeball that gives me all the info that I want. And they're like, but it'll be able to track you. Then I'll pull it out and I'll throw it in the garbage when I'm doing something naughty. What are you talking about? Can its full sweep be conveyed in one fell swoop? 400 pages? Not really. It's easier to write a brief history of time in all 13 billion years. Harari also spends many pages on our present and possible future rather than our past. But the deep lines of the story of Sapiens are fairly uncontentious, and he sets them out with verve. So it's let's see. He says swashbuckles a bunch of times in this review. Harari swashbuckles through these vast and intricate matters in a way that is at its best engaging and informative. Accepts the common view that the fundamental structure of our emotions and desires hasn't been touched by any of these revolutions. Our eating habits, our conflicts, our sexuality are all a result of the way our hunter-gatherer minds interact with our current post-industrial environment. Megacities, airplanes, telephones, computers. Today we may be living in a high-rise apartment with overstuffed refrigerators, but our DNA still thinks we live in the savannah. Yeah, that's true. We will adapt over time. We are. I would argue we're in that process. The point about happiness is a persistent theme in Sapiens. When Arthur Brooks, head of the conservative American Enterprise Institute, made a related point in the New York Times in July, he was criticized for trying to favor the rich and justify income inequality. Okay, whatever. Harari hates, quote, modern liberal culture, but his attack is a caricature, and it boomerangs back on him. Liberal humanism, he says, is a religion, and it does not deny the existence of God. All humanists worship humanity. A huge gulf is opening between the tenets of liberal humanism and the latest findings on life sciences. This is silly. It's also said that the great Adam Smith drafted and once again is apostle of greed. Still, Harari is probably right that the only criminal, that, quote, only a criminal buys a house by handing over a suitcase of banknotes. Yeah, true. A point that acquires piquancy when one considers that about 35% of all purchases at the high end of the London housing market are currently being paid in cash. Right, exactly. It's just referencing that shit. Basically, he's just talking about where humans go from there. We used to be all hunched over, and now we're back to being hunched over.
Just the WHO. You have the
what's the World Evil Organization, the Pentaverate.
What is the other one that is the...
What is that thing? That's a thing. I don't know. Man, I wish there was like a thing I could get inserted in my head that allows me to recall stuff. I'd get that. Oh shit.
Diversity.
Biodiversity. Uh-huh. You mean we shouldn't just rely on wheat and fucking corn in case something happens?
The global treaty on biodiversity.
Right. Yeah. So they give humans, give animals the right to vote.
Also, all kinds of
Get to it.
powers from states. Global
Bullshit.
biodiversity framework is what they're talking about.
The global biodiversity. Oops, sorry. Wrong screen. Beg your pardon. Hold on. The global diversity framework. There it is. Scholarly preparations for the post-2020 biodiversity, a new global plan of managing nature through 2030. This is from CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is what he is referring to. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, the Secretariat of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, the CBD, ironically, you don't want their kind of oil in you, although perhaps. Apparently this has to do with everybody taking mushrooms and living like a gelfling. Seriously, this looks straight out of the Dark Crystal. New global framework for managing nature through 2030. Framework comprises 21 targets and 10 milestones proposed for 2030 en route to living in harmony with nature by 2050. Key targets include 1. Ensure that at least 30% globally of land areas and sea areas, especially areas of particular importance for biodiversity and its contributions to people, are conserved through effectively and equitably managed ecologically representative and well-connected systems of protected areas and other area-based conservation measures, and integrated into the wider landscape and seascape. So we shouldn't overfish and burn down our forest. Cool. Prevent or reduce the rate of introduction and establishment of invasive alien species by 50% and control or eradicate such species to eliminate or reduce their impacts. So we don't, by somebody bringing a fucking frog to Australia, wipe out all the dingoes. Reduce nutrients lost to the environment by at least half, pesticides by at least 2/3, and eliminate discharge of plastic waste. That sounds like a great idea. These are milestones and targets. These are targets, obviously, on the back of every American. Use ecosystem-based approaches to contribute to mitigation and adaptation to climate change, contributing to at least 10 gigatons of CO2 expenditure per year to mitigation, and ensure that all mitigation and adaptation efforts and avoid negative impacts on biodiversity. Redirect, repurpose, reform, or eliminate incentives harmful to biodiversity in a just and equitable way, reducing them by at least $500 billion per year. Increase financial resources from all sources to at least US $200 billion a year, including new additional and effective financial resources increased by at least US $10 billion per year, international financial flows to developing countries, leveraging private finance, increasing domestic resource mobilization, taking into account national biodiversity finance base. So basically pay countries not to burn their fucking forests down. But it's probably just a big thing because it says diversity in it, so it must be bad.
This one is going to be, they're going to have a new convention on this.
Yeah, they update shit based on new technology and new threats and stuff. When new animals, new areas start, like, check Orange Ruffy, circa 1987.
And this one will all be about land use. It will have huge implications on food production, farm.
Yes, to make sure that blight doesn't spread and there's a variety of foods and indigenous foods don't get wiped out by people just growing like Dow super corn.
Property rights, all of it.
No, has nothing to do with property rights.
And I believe it will cause what Mao saw in, the 1960s, late 1950s.
No, it won't.
1950s.
No, it won't.
Just massive starvation.
All right. I don't know if this asshole has read any history at all, but Mao didn't have targets. They violently enforced their quotas and yields in the same way that the Russians did with the Ukrainians with the Holodomor. That's what caused the starvation. And the deaths under Mao a good portion of them were fucking murders. They weren't just people wasting away. That was there were tens of millions of people because of that. Because of the enforcement of non-biodiverse crop formations. Like, they literally made people grow what the fucking central government said to grow. It doesn't matter what you want to grow on your farm. You gotta make rice. Just all you do is rice. All you do is corn, all you do is wheat. And if you do anything else, you're in trouble.
Really bad.
Yeah. And this would enforce biodiversity and keep draconian governments from forcing their farmers to grow what the state wants them to grow.
Because they're putting these things into these global treaties.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And who's going to enforce them? Do you think our military will enforce things like this?
Yeah, are our soldiers going to become jackbooted thugs for the WHO and kill our farmers on it? No, none of this is true. Fuck. You ever think they just find themselves like, is there, you know how they have a lunk alarm at Planet Fitness that if you start grunting while you lift shit or any of that stuff, that you get in trouble? You know, that the bell goes off and like, hey, this sweaty fuck over here is making us all feel bad because he's working too hard. Do you think there's like an Alex Jones lunk alarm at Glenn Beck's studio, and it's been on the fritz for a while? Yeah, Glenn thinks it's a zombie movie. The shit.
Or will they dare to send troops here?
No, stupid. The rest of the world is worried that we'll send troops there.
You know, Glenn.
You know, Glenn, I think it's worse than that.
The sky is the limit.
No, the sky is not the fucking limit. Well, I guess they could strafe bomb us. It's the UN's just gonna nuke us from the air. You know, in the name of biodiversity.
Until a couple of years ago, I would have laughed this off. I would have laughed off the comments of Klaus Schwab. Yeah, there's some crazies out there, but, you know, they don't have any power. But I think after the past 2 years, we need to take this very seriously.
No, you don't. After the past 2 years, you fucking well don't.
Because they did succeed. I can't remember.
No, they didn't. Ask Florida and Texas and all their dead people.
The name of the survivor of the Cambodia's killing field did an interview on the Epic Times a couple of days.
Oh, the Epic Times. All right, so we're just going straight for the jugular, and like we're going straight past Alex Jones to like Mooney, Falun Gong area.
And he noted that the way communism took root is the same guy could be the arsonist and the firefighter, and that's what they seem to do. They seem to induce.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how they're doing it. The WHO is going to spread disease on purpose so they can show up to cure it. Fucking like, oh, come on. Like there's what? All right. Some people just cannot handle weed. It makes them paranoid. I'm just saying, whoever is hotboxing this studio needs to be arrested immediately.
Catalyzing events.
Yes.
With the pandemic, I mean, it clearly was not natural.
Yeah, but the WHO did start it. And by the way, it clearly was natural.
Who and exactly what did it, we're still finding out, but...
Yeah, we're still finding out, but I think it's fair to say that it was an attack on purpose by a group of people that we should probably be at war with. Is that where you're going, Daniel?
It wasn't natural. It wasn't a 1 in 100 year natural event. So in other words...
Sure it was. I got news for you. Human beings are natural occurrences. Our mistakes, our fuck-ups, our technological failures are all natural. Nuclear meltdowns are completely a part of nature. Everything is, fucko.
Nothing stopping a new pandemic from coming.
Well, yeah, certainly if we dismantle the WHO, there's nothing stopping it. I mean, we could try to stop it at our borders and fail miserably.
And you have all the supply chain shortages, the sudden issues with the baby formula.
It wasn't sudden. The sudden issue with baby formula was directly because we don't in the United States in general let people poison our children with chronobacter in their baby formula.
Land use issues, as you mentioned.
Land use issues. We're now on the side of the fucking Bundys and their artificially free grazing rights on federal land that they share with all these other people that other people pay for, but they want to do it for free?
Bill Gates and the Chinese buying up American land. All of this is
Bill Gates and the Chinese. We're this close to gay frogs.
tightening the noose around us on the vital things we need to survive. And then you throw into the mix.
No. By the way, the quote-unquote vital things we need to survive, we've been getting from other countries for a very long time, and we, as a people, including your favorite president and mine and every other American, have decided that's a mistake and we need to start shortening those supply chains, and that will take some time, some effort, and a little bit of pain, because it occurred unnaturally, and its removal will happen unnaturally. Even within the confines of my natural argument before. That's my point.
Maniacal war on treating COVID, which you would think if you're a big COVID hawk, you'd be, man, you got to treat that thing. No, they were against it, and to this day, they're against treating it. Is that all pain?
What? Is this the ivermectin hydroxy argument? Both of which were shown in multiple studies to not actually be effective? I mean, obviously, if you took ivermectin and you feel better, you had worms. Thanks for letting the world know you're a wormy mess.
It's a very concerning picture.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being in Rogan's household or even in Glenn Beck's household where Glenn takes ivermectin and goes, so that's why I was scooting my asshole across the carpet.
And I think, you know, I speak to a lot of Republicans and state legislators.
Yeah, state legislatures. You mean where the lunatics reside?
A lot of their leadership wants to move on from this. But I think you need states to preemptively pass resolutions that these things are unenforceable. We're not going to do them. We're going to pass state constitutional amendments codifying, rights to life, liberty, and property in a time of a public health emergency.
You know, the crazy.
Nobody was welded into their fucking house, and you could come and go. Stores made their own decisions. That was an act of private property. If a store said we're not going to enforce a mask mandate in New York, for example, they could get shut down. Anywhere else in the fucking country, if the city didn't have an ordinance specifically about it, they could do it. They just would kill their customers. Most did it voluntarily because they knew it was making people sick.
Thing is,
we're still litigating this bullshit? Why don't we just litigate Jonas Salk? Villain or fool?
Is that you can't get states to really understand ESG.
Oh my fucking God, we're going to ESG now. Like, is it really, is his only measure of a conversation chapters of his fucking book?
The banks are now going to states and saying your state is going to fall under ESG rules for loans from us. And they still don't read.
Yes, because shareholders are insisting that the money loaned, through that bank be up to that ESG score determines whether I'm going to invest in a bank or not. And people are making moral and ethical decisions about where to spend their money. And banks who give their money to like right-wing lunatics who are like, pro broodmare aren't going to get loans the way everybody else is because I don't want my money to go there. If I'm a shareholder in this bank, that's something they would normally be for. ESG is environmental, social, and governmental equity scores. So if you are a part of a giant investment group or a union or an individual, you can look at the ESG score of a company and determine whether they're one of the good guys or one of the bad guys in this theory. And you don't have to follow it. You could actually go, I think ESG scores are terrible, therefore I'm only investing in the bad guys if you want to. But in these larger cases where that matters to the constituents, they want to make sure their money's going someplace good. And this all started out of the whole idea that a lot of these mutual funds held by unions and stuff had a lot of petrochemical and Monsanto shit in it, and then didn't invest in other stuff, which might be helpful, might not be as directly profitable, but the union members and other people's got together and like, why the fuck are we investing in our competitor or somebody who's making the environment worse in our area? We would rather invest as a group We have decided, we have voted as a union group or as a trade organization or whatever. We are voting. We want our stuff to go to help the world. Our investment, while we want to make money, if we're making money on the back of a horrifyingly decrepit system and poverty and hunger and disease and cancer clusters and shit like that, it's what good is it? We're willing to take that trade-off if we can invest in something worthwhile. And so the ESG scores came out of that idea. So you can tell. You have a standard that you can use, a guidepost. It does not mean you can't invest in those companies. But it's the problem that they're getting a lot of pushback in the corporate world is that these ESG scores are calling these fuckers out. And these unions and giant trade organizations like the nurses union, the teachers union, Teamsters and all that kind of stuff, they invest all their money as a group, and these companies are pissed that they're not getting money from those groups anymore because they're aware of the content of their portfolios in a way that they didn't used to be.
We understand the threat. When you start talking about, one global government from the WHO.
No one is talking about that except you and Alex Jones's ball tanner.
Everybody's going to laugh that off. And
right. It's true. But if it's any consolation, Glenn, we're not laughing at it any harder than we're laughing at your pocket square. And your French cuffs. Jimmy Dore would be very proud.
I honestly believe that's part of the deal. I mean, they have...
Yes, it's a big scheme to make you think it's ridiculous by showing criticisms of it are ridiculous.
Made conspiracy theory into, hey, did you hear that Coke is on sale at the store? Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist.
All right, it's settled once and for all. Glenn Beck is the king of analogies. Look, everybody reaches for an analogy that kind of paints the picture of what they're talking about. But I've never seen anyone reach so little.
Everything is a conspiracy theory now.
I see. Why don't you just say everything's a conspiracy theory and then say the part about Coke is on sale and invert that sentence, and then your point would be made instead of it looking like you were cleaning up the fact that you were incapable of analogizing the situation in a way that was presented a cohesive argument.
Everything.
Exactly, but you...
Exactly, totally. 150%, Glenn.
What? I'm going to take them at their word this time. I didn't pay attention last decade.
Well, and you haven't started.
Retrospectively, we've been going back and seeing, oh my gosh, they've been warning with certitude there's going to be a pandemic under the Trump administration.
No. They said within the next few years, because they do show up on that cycle. And the worry is that in about 4 or 5 years, one will pop up, and in 4 or 5 years after that, one will pop up. That's the cycle of humanity getting lax and then going. It's like the stock market ebbing and flowing, interpersonal relationships ebbing and flowing, infectious diseases coming and going on it, and as we are increasingly connected over the world, that 10 to 20 year cycle that gave us polio and AIDS arguably shortened because of how much interaction we have with the rest of the world and how much cross interaction the rest of the world has. And during that period, that's the window. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at 4 to 5 years. And by the way, since COVID, the swine flu outbreak that we're having right now, that was the avian flu that we had a big chicken cull, those are in an even shorter window. So you need to be even more prepared to deal with
It's interesting how they...
Whatever happened to Ebola? Ebola only transfers by blood contact to bodily fluid. So somebody, 28 days later, like puking blood into your eyeball, or your blood touching their blood, or their blood getting in your eye, your mouth, you touching your eye, that kind of stuff. Direct contact. It's not airborne. So even when it flares up, it's a direct contact thing. If you can isolate people, it goes away.
Well, this time I'm going to take them seriously. Bill Gates just came out with his new book on how to defeat the next pandemic. So, when you have
What a terrible notion. How dare he?
this is the firefighters, we definitely.
Again, saying the arsonist is the firefighter what he's saying is that Bill Gates put out a book, How to Defeat the Next Pandemic, and to sell that book, he's working on the next pandemic so that he can go told you so, because there's a lot of told you so money out there. If there was, I'd be richer than Bill Gates, motherfucker.
We need to pay attention. We need to get out ahead of this. And you mentioned the banks. And I think one of the biggest threats that we need to understand is that a lot of conservatives have this Reagan-era nostalgia about the private sector. Well, the private sector was a bulwark against tyranny when it was distinguished and separate from the government.
Exactly right.
But now...
Exactly, totally. And now is there a difference? The government is the corporations. The corporations are the government. This is the exact inversion of the argument that we hear from the far left group, which is that the government has been totally taken over by corporations. Their argument is corporations have totally been taken over by the government. This is the exact same paranoia, but it's the chocolate and vanilla flavoring version. It's just another way to flavor sugar.
It's actually become one entity. It's worse than...
The government and industry has not become one entity. It's just this is just dull.
Pure traditional communism, because I can't vote out...
It's pure traditional communism. You can't what?
The heads of Pfizer and the heads of the bank.
Yep.
What do you mean, yup? Hold on. Back the fuck up. These are conservatives arguing that as a voter you should be able to vote out the head of Pfizer. You could vote out the president and all your representatives. What makes you think you should?
Because I can't vote out the heads of Pfizer and the heads of the bank.
Yep.
And you can't campaign against them and, go to legislative hearings and expose them.
Yeah, you can. And you want to vote, you want to have a vote in whether or not, buy shares. Go to the shareholder meetings. They're publicly traded companies.
They're all behind the...
Yeah, Olga, I have no fucking idea where they're going with this, other than into a well-fortified basement full of pancake batter tubs.
So, all these red states where sometimes you have these Republicans that say, well, we're reluctant to fighting this budding fascism because I don't like telling the private sector what to do.
And, motherfucker. And this guy is saying the problem is we have private sector corporate communism now because these guys give too much freedom to corporate. I don't know how do you talk yourself into this Gordian knot of idiocy? And who is sitting at home watching this bullshit? I mean, they have legit viewers in theory. Who is sitting at home buying this garbage?
And they're only doing it at the behest of the federal government. You have an obligation as a state to interpose on behalf of the liberty of the people.
You have an obligation? What are you going to do? Instead of charging up the steps of the Capitol and beating up cops, you're going to charge up the steps of Pfizer and beat up a security guard to stop Big Syringe?
Be something from the UN Biodiversity Framework Council. It's being...
That's the part he has highlighted?
As the next Paris climate agreement, except it will focus on biodiversity, land use, not climate change. It'll have huge implication on food production, farming, property rights. Also carries with it the potential to cause mass starvation, loss of human life on a scale.
Yes, this is directly from the UN Charter website. It's not at all from a psychotic, paranoid, right-wing conspiracy website. Where the fuck is he quoting this from? Where's he reading?
The liberty of the people.
I want to give you something from the UN Biodiversity Framework Council. It's being...
The UN Biodiversity Framework Council. He wants to give you something from them.
As the...
By the way, he's picking up from some other source.
Production, farming, property rights.
Dun, dun, dun. Clicks, the audio's clicking and popping? Sorry, I don't know what that is. No Glenn audio? That's weird. Hold on. Let me see if I can change screens real quick. Sometimes it, like, the audio resets in this. Loop back, and sometimes loop back gets weird. I'm over time anyway, so it's probably just tormenting me. Turn off, turn on, close that. There we go. Go back to here. Here we go.
Businesses turned out in force. According to the World Economic Forum, Unilever, gee, they don't make anything, do they? Citi, Natura and Company.
Whoa, it's very loud. Sorry. It got really, that's why.
H&M Group, Walmart, IKEA, Nestle, also the International Chamber of Commerce, the World Business Council on Sustainable
Yeah, all the big commies.
Development. There are more than 1,100 companies with revenues of more than $5 trillion that have signed on to this.
Uh-huh.
This is extraordinarily dangerous.
Again, where the fuck are you reading this from? Is this from Daniel Horowitz's shit? Or, I mean, it's his assessment. This is the same thing that Russell Brand does, where they read an opinion article as fact.
Daniel is right. Everything has to happen at the state level. Everything.
Yeah. It's if you don't threaten your vice principal at a school board meeting, the UN jackbooted thugs will make you grow avocados, and there'll be a taco truck on every corner.
Please, if you are a state official, wherever you're hearing my voice, please do not.
Yeah, nobody. That's nobody. I mean, like, if you're hearing it on my show, I apologize, kinda.
My word for it. Read about it yourself.
I did, and what I recognized is that either you can't read or you're just being an asshole.
This is a coordinated thing, all being.
Yeah, meetings are often coordinated. Treaties are often coordinated. Rules and regulations are often coordinated. People get together and work on them. They throw some of them out. They keep some of them. They coordinate. Not as good as John Witherspoon's mushroom pants, jacket, and belt, but
driven to the.
You got to coordinate. Look at that. You got the mushroom. Bam!
End of capitalism. The end.
Oh, fuck off.
Of sovereignty, individual sovereignty.
Again, like, at some point, I mean, are the funds getting that tight on the right? Maybe they are. And that's why you got to go full Alex Jones, or is everybody just jockeying the way, like, Russell Brand is jockeying to be the next Joe Rogan, like hippie Joe Rogan or hippie Alex Jones. Glenn Beck is recognizing that if you can slice off a bit of that Alex Jones money, that's the sweet spot without ever, yeah.
Your sovereignty of your body, the American dream.
By the way, sovereignty of your body, motherfucker, you're the side that wants to get rid of Roe. You've got activist judges trying to remove women's bodily sovereignty. You don't think that's a precursor to everything you supposedly warn? Good
is
God.
Over unless these things are fought and taken seriously.
Yeah, I'm cool with fighting things. I'm good with fighting. I enjoy it, but I can't take you seriously. I'm sorry. There's just something inside me. It's like I don't know if it's logic, reason, a sense of humor, self-confidence. Something inside me. It's clearly rotten and a scourge, not a scourge, but a scourge, and it makes it impossible.
You can start with my book.
Oh, fuck off! We got the whole segment, the whole fucking segment, the whole thing was just he can't get in a fucking Barnes and Noble, so he just does a section of this bullshit.
The Great Reset.
Oh God, it's a dud. Actually, it's a piece of shit. It's a bore. I'm not buying it because I've already heard everything he has to say about it on the show. Basically, his show is a book on tape of the goddamn book, so I don't know how you sell the book. Do people just have it on their fucking bookshelf to go, see, I believe in the Great Reset. I'm one of the good ones.
Available wherever books are found.
Where they're found. Yeah, it's not available where they're sold. Nobody would buy it. But anywhere you find books, where books are found, dumpsters, under chair legs, anywhere books are found.
What was the name of your book? Came out a few years ago.
Yeah, what was your stupid book, Daniel? It came out a couple of years ago. I haven't read it, and I don't know the name of it, and I don't have a copy of it.
Daniel, that talked about this.
Yeah, the one that came out 2 years ago that turned out to be completely fucking wrong.
Stolen Sovereignty.
Yeah, Stolen Sovereignty.
Oh my God, it's almost as if.
Get that by Daniel Horowitz.
Yeah, get that book. Whatever the fucking name is. Like, granted, I have a staff of 9 people, 3 engineers, and a couple of co-hosts, but nobody could write down the name of our guest's fucking book on my piece of paper and highlight it so that when time comes, I could promote his book. Like an asshole. I just embarrassed him by asking. Like, I don't even like this fucking guy. Why am I defending him?
Daniel, thank you so much. Obviously, you're going to be paying attention next week to
No, not really.
WHO. Just keep us informed on what's going on, will you?
Yeah, you're going to be right in there. You get the inside scoop.
Absolutely. We'll be vigilant, and thank you for having me.
Vigilant. What's he going to do? Vigilant. You know, vigilance. The person standing on the wall. Like in an old fort who calls into the town crier and says, I don't know, they've got me looking out towards the river, but I'm fairly certain it's full of sharks. Yes, I recognize that sharks are in saltwater, and it's a freshwater lake that's attached to the river. Yeah, I know that. But I just feel, I mean, if you look at it, you ever look at it like the water on the ocean, and you're like, there's a lot of sharks in there? You know that part? Yeah. That's how I feel looking at the river. Because it's scary. You can't see the bottom. Well, yes, catfish are just as scary. Well, I mean, it's not teeth, but the suction scares me and sort of excites me. But I'm just saying, you ever look out like when you're swimming in a lake and it's night and you're nude and you're alone and it's John Wayne Gacy's birthday and you're celebrating and you go for a late night skinny dip and even though it's a freshwater lake, you're like, sharks and snapping turtles. It's like all you can think of because your dangly bits are waving around. Yeah, I feel like that looking out this side. What's actually happening? There's a sailboat. There's probably a communist sailboat. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all working together to make the sails work. There's like a team of, they're probably hired, I guess. So there's a capitalist sailboat. But like with communists all over it, because there's like 2 people who own the sailboat, and they're all on the sailboat. You know, like the crew is commie crew, but there's like 2. So it's like 80-20 capitalist to communist, the communist to cap. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just worried about the sharks. Yeah. Well, what if they develop, what if they get wings? Yeah, right. Winged sharks. Yeah, people used to laugh at me when I would say winged sharks. Now they just don't talk to me at all, and it never comes up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Glenn, I'll call in tomorrow. Yeah, if I'm not eaten by a flying shark with syphilis. Mm-hmm. Flying commie shark with syphilis. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, the world's going to end in a couple weeks, but make sure people buy my book because I want to be rich when I I evaporate into a cloud of radioactive waste. Thanks. Okay. You too. Absolutely. Yeah. Love to the family. Have fun in the bunker. Okay. Bye-bye.
You bet. God bless.
You bet. God bless. You bet. God bless. Fucking lazy bullshit. 3 of these things with this WHO nonsense, the same fucking talking point everywhere.